Welcome to the second chapter of the inner structure of the musician. After some issues and some problems, I finally have the pleasure to introduce you to this wonderful conversation. Today my guest will be Lucius Gregory Meredith, which is a brilliant musician, composer, multi-instrumentalist, and also a genius mathematician. The topics for today will be rhythm, composition, music, and many other stuff. So have fun and enjoy. Hi Lucius, how are you?
Hello, Octavio. Please call me Greg.
Greg. Sorry, I am used to call you Lucius for a long time
no
ago.
no worries, not a problem. My full name is, for those people who are interested, is Lucius Gregory Meredith. And the etymology is interesting. Lucius is Latin, Old Latin for light. Gregory is Middle French for vigilant, and Meredith is Welsh for watcher of the sea. So the vigilant light watcher of the sea is the lighthouse.
Wow.
That's why my handle on the internet is often Lighthouse.
That's a really epic name, like Viking epic name. So cool.
But yeah, cool. Please call me Greg.
Okay, Greg.
Thank you.
So tell me, I know a lot of things has been happening with you. You have a project named The Crown. But before we talk about it, I want you to tell me, how does this project became alive? What happened? What was the inspiration? And what is the aim of this project?
Great questions. I have to say that there were a couple of different inspirations for The Crown. One came out of a relationship that I had initially with Natasha Natalaevna. So right after I got home from the Symphony of Crafty Guitarists #1 in Holland, and discovered that I'd lost everything. I'd lost my house, I'd lost my wife, I'd lost my pets. Everything was gone. My entire life was.
So after we met, you lose everything?
Everything.
Sorry.
No, it's one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. So anyway, I was going to get a PO box for mail while I was moving from one place to another, and I walked into Mailbox West in West Seattle, where I currently reside, and I heard this voice, and I turned around, and there was this impossibly beautiful woman, and she was singing, and I said, "You have a real voice." And turns out she worked at Mailbox West. And I said, "Well, look, I play the 𝘮stone. And you can probably see the 𝘮stone in the background here if I tilt the camera. I don't know.
Yes.
See that? That's the 𝘮stone." I said, I play the 𝘮stone. And I showed her a picture of what a 𝘮stone was, and said, "I'm always looking for folks with real voices. So if you want to get together, get together." And I gave her my details and some links to music that I'd done. And she contacted me about a week later and said, "Yeah, I'd like to do some music together." And we did. She came all prim and proper, and she brought this folder of jazz tunes she wanted to cover. And I dutifully learned the changes, and did all of that. But as a way to kind of get the creative process happening, I began to introduce these warm-ups. Where we could sing anything, do anything, play anything. And lo and behold, I discovered that she did singing in tongues. And I had for years wanted to work with someone who would sing in tongues. And so I suggested that maybe that should be the focus of our creative venture. And kind of around that, The Crown formed, and then someone who has become much more involved in the project, Amy Denayo, recommended Ahmed Yusuf Begi as a percussionist. And when when Ahmed showed up, he said, so what do you want me to play? And I just said the right beats, and he played the right beats. He's just a brilliant genius percussionist. And then later people said, you need a bass player, and Denis Staskowski just kind of magically wandered into our lives, and he's just a really genius bass player. And yeah, and then my friend Beth Quist joined us, adding, and Beth is, wow. She's got like a 4-octave voice. She's a child prodigy on the piano. She plays the hammered dulcimer at the level that, Cirque du Soleil, had a hammered dulcimer built for her. So she's another one of these, aliens from another planet. So kind of this community of fantastic musicians kind of materialized around the Crown. Subsequently Natasha and I split, but the music seems to just keep flowing. I can say that even though we just dropped the Queen's Breath, which is our second album, we've got a whole new album's worth of material that we're performing at the Royal Room tomorrow night. And so the music just keeps flowing. I often wonder about the aim, and a lot of this has to do with me wondering about like how I participate in music in general. I mean, one of my focuses right now is trying to create some technology which will help us as society begins to unravel because of climate change. And so I often think, well, when I prioritize my efforts, how does music fit into trying to provide some support for the generations that follow after? And all I can say is that I need the music to have the energy every day, to renew that energy supply. So that's part of the aim, and to also I guess maybe create a space for all of us to feel safe and remember who we are. So that's some of the things. I'm not sure. I think in some ways the aim is a little bit of a mystery, and I'm okay with that.
That's good. That's good. And tell us what is new? What is new in this project?
Well, I mean, so very new. So we've released Queen's Breath. So it's an LP. The LP is it's quite beautiful.
Yes.
I don't know if you, and along with the beautiful music on the LP. So here's the sleeve for the LP, which is also beautiful. But along with the beautiful music and the beautiful packaging comes a gorgeous booklet. And so here, for example, is a drawing for the title track, which is called Queen's Breath. And that drawing was done by Anna Laura Torquata.
And hi to her.
Hi to her. Many of the drawings are done by Hannah Adams. Here's a spread that I think is just particularly gorgeous. See if I can find it here. Yeah. Both of these are done by Hannah, and I think they're just absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, they are great.
Yeah. So anyway, that's new. It's brand new. It just showed up at the album. The LPs just showed up at my doorstep about 3 weeks ago. And you can also stream it off of Bandcamp, or get downloads from Bandcamp. So that's new. And then, even though that's new, we've been playing, a global pandemic happened in the middle of making this album. So we've been playing this material for 4 years. So we've kind of moved on to new material. So we've got a brand new album's worth of material that we're now playing in front of audiences, and so far we're getting good response. good response from that. So I'm excited about that. And I'm exploring new forms and yeah, all kinds of new stuff.
That's
What's
great.
new for you? What?
Well, this is new for me. So I am releasing this channel. Well, I released it on Friday,
Fantastic.
and it's been great. This is a new thing, and
Yep.
composing a lot of music lately. I
Oh,
I don't know, like my brain is like opening. I don't know if you have this feeling at some point, but that moment or that year or that month or even that week that you say like, oh my God, like the world is a different place and you can compose a lot of stuff.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yes, yes. I know that feeling. I feel like the floodgates have been opened. It is very difficult for me to keep track or keep on top of all the music that's flowing through.
Yes, and I have found lately a lot of mental blockings, like things from the past that always came to your mind when you try to compose. And
Mm.
well, I studied to be a professional musician, so I have more mental blockage, more, a lot. Because sometimes it's like, well, this is not like too complex enough,
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
why don't you add a 7 plus 13 and something like that, and more crazy stuff, or a harmony that instead of going from 5 to 1, you go to 5 to flat 7 or something like that, like more
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So for me, it was really difficult. I was judging all the time to myself. It was like hurting myself. I talked with Steve about that, and it was, for me, it was hurting myself all the time, all the time, all the time, like trying to be enough.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I totally get that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's painful, it's stressful. You get tired at the end. I remember that I took my guitar at some point and say, okay, that's enough. I am going to leave this.
Yeah, yeah. I understand. I
and
understand.
and well, I begin to work about my mental blockings and how I talk to myself after reading this book, The Inner Game of Tennis, and
Ah,
it was brilliant for me. It was like open my eyes to a new psychology on my way of thinking when I sit with a guitar. I didn't realize how much I was thinking with a guitar. I think you understand me really good about guitar craft when you sit and circulate with everyone and start to thinking too much, but when you are like joining everyone, mind
yes.
in silent, something really cool happen. But I didn't realize even when I was in a guitar craft thing and learn all those stuff, I didn't realize how much I was thinking, even though when I was sit down and playing guitar. It's crazy. It's crazy. A lot of memories came to me. I've been realizing a lot of memories, a lot of stuff that's told me like, no, this is not good enough. No, quit. No, you are not good enough.
So you've been able to bring some more yes and less no.
Well, instead of a yes, it's funny because this book talks about the positivity, the be
Oh,
too
maybe.
much, be too much like into the positive world, like yes, yes, yes. Oh, you can,
Yeah.
and it says also that it's also not so good to be there because it works at some point, but it also blocks you at some point. It's like difficult. So instead, I've been doing what you say, like a maybe, like
Yeah. Could be.
le-
Possibly.
let's see what happened. And
Yes. Maybe.
like like our dear Tom Redmond friend
Mhm.
tell us once. I don't know if he told you, but he always tell this story, the amazing story about that's impossible. Let's do it. for
Absolutely.
for me, it was like that. And I also remember this was for me a really interesting. I saw the national, I think it was the National Geographic documentary about Picasso.
Aha.
And there was one scene that I remember too much, that he started to go into museums and start to look these African masks, and he was like really inspired about that, and he began to paint differently.
Ah.
And when he finished his work, when people saw it, they felt disgust. They feel like,
Ah.
this is horrible. How you can do that? No, no. And for me, it was like, this is true art. That's the true art. You know, you never make happy everyone. And if it's done with the heart, and if with a lot of work and all that stuff, well, if it's art, it's art, and that's all. It's not about beautiful or awful. It's about doing what it feels on the moment. So for me, that was an inspirational moment. It's
Good.
really crazy, all that stuff. So I've been realizing many things, and right now it's changing. It's changing. Right now it's like I need to keep myself open to whatever comes. Like the music comes and talks through me. Stop thinking about if I am not good enough, because I have seen people that are not professionals and can play music.
Well, I mean, you think about, you know, um, Bob Dylan,
Hmm.
you know, like 3 chords
Yes.
and three chords and a gravelly voice, or so actually right now, as we're preparing for this gig tomorrow night, Beth Quist does this really beautiful cover of David Bowie's Heroes.
Mm.
And you think about how simple that song is and how forgiving that song is, right? And yet it's magical, right? It's completely magical. It's this fantastic I don't know how to say it. It's like a snowflake or a sunrise or something. It's just like fantastically uplifting, and it's every performance is unique. And it didn't take all this harmony or
Oh, yes.
didn't take 13/7, right? it just took being open to the music,
Yes.
and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. I don't know how that works. It's a really, like you say, mysterious thing that you doesn't know how it works, because you can create complex music, but that doesn't mean that it could be good enough.
Yeah, I think for me, the music is as complex as it's supposed to be, right? It's not like for example, with the title track Queen's Breath,
Mhm.
like I felt this call to look at 11 against 7, like I felt it in my body. I really have this need to understand the dialogue between 11 and 7.
Mhm.
And it's an interesting story as to how it happened. It's like for several weeks I was like not getting it, and then all of a sudden one night I was like, oh, well, this is so obvious. I know how to do this, right? And then I just did it. And then as soon as I had the rhythm, then suddenly I was able to enter into a harmonic space that was compatible with the rhythm. And so the whole tune unfolded very quickly. Now that night, it turns out, was the night that my mother turned 77.
Oh. Oh.
Now I didn't plan it that way, right? I wasn't thinking about any of that. It's just, it just happened, right? And so to me, that's kind of like the magical things like that happen when you're following the music, as opposed to trying to force the music, or I don't know. You know what I mean? I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, it's completely true. It's like creating a project and everything flows like so naturally, and it could be something really complex, and
Yes,
it could be done really easy.
absolutely. Like it becomes easy when it's necessary.
Yes, yes, that's really true.
Another example, the second track on Queen's Breath,
Mhm.
it was, I have this commitment, like every day I put in just a little under 2 hours worth of practice. And it was like 3 in the morning and I still needed to do my practice. We've all been there, right? And
Yes.
and so in those moments when I'm exhausted, one of the things I do is I rely on the music. I say, well,
Mm,
okay, I'm gonna this practice must be musical. So I'll,
mm,
you know, and because the music gives me energy to get through it. And I found myself playing in a style that I never really played in.
mm.
And it was like I could go back to my childhood and listening to João Gilberto, who's a guitarist that I love, I just adore, but I never attempted to play in that style,
Yeah.
right? And suddenly, I mean, it's not like the song is exactly in that style, but there's a quality from his music making that came to me and was available to me. And so the second song, After Happily Ever After, has this feel to it. Now it turns out that I discovered later, after we had worked on the song, that probably that night, certainly in that month, but probably that night was when he passed, when he died.
Hmm.
So it was like, wow, that's kind of weird. That's weird timing.
Hmm. So you can say that every track has like his own mystery, its own mystery.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, you know, yeah, something like that. I'm not, I mean, every track certainly has its story.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
that's nice.
yeah. Well, I think Amy Denayo says that songs are like hunters. You know, they're looking to they're going to track you down.
Yes. They looking for the right prey.
That's right.
So true, so true, so cool. And when you see yourself as a musician, well, maybe I should ask you first. Do you see yourself as a musician?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually.
So, what does it means for you to be a musician?
Mostly it means I make my life a place where music wants to inhabit.
Hmm.
And I remember formulating that aim. So back in my late 30s, it was like, I would like my life to be a house where music wants to come and live.
Hmm.
And what is it? What do I have to adjust about my life so that my life is a place where music lives?
Hmm.
And now it's true. Like in my house, there is music happening all the time. My son is also a fantastic guitarist.
He is a fantastic guitarist, completely.
And you know, he's, when I'm not practicing, he's practicing. And we have the crown rehearsals here, and right now Beth Quist is hanging out here, and so we practice
Hmm.
all the time. And then she's practicing for a solo set that she's going to do at the Royal Room. And so the
Hmm.
house is just constantly full of music. And my son's band comes and rehearses here, and so literally the house is constantly full of music.
Hmm.
And it just feels like my life has become a place where music lives.
That's really, really, really cool. Well, the
Yeah.
place that you live is like we talk about. It's really, really musical place. Seattle
Oh,
is
yeah.
a really musical place. I have saw a lot of videos of guys interviewing people, and those places are on Seattle, and those guys are on Seattle, and they invite a lot of bands, mostly Australian bands. But yes.
Awesome. That's really good. I absolutely agree with you. You know, one of the things that I think is that I noticed about Seattle right away. I love West African drumming, and when I lived in Austin, Texas, which is a big musical place, I was never able to find my way to like a source. I mean, I could play with people who did African drumming, but they weren't like from Africa or had studied in Africa. Within 2 weeks of moving to Seattle, I had found my way to like actual Senegalese griot, and and from there was, I went to Senegal and studied African drumming in Senegal, and the Senegal Seattle connection is very strong. So yeah, so Seattle is an amazing place when it comes to music.
Yeah, I have noticed that, and even all of our friends from Guitarcraft, they are like really active on the music. So yes. It's really amazing. But I am curious now that you talk about the African drumming, what you can say that studying African drumming leave you, like on teaching, on the learning. What does it leave you that you didn't have that knowledge that you say like, oh, this is wonderful, I didn't realize how this worked, like in the Indian stuff, the Konakol, it's like I've been learning that style of studying rhythmic is like really musical, instead of like Berkeley kind of type, that it's more like you put yourself to study and it's more metrical, and you say like, oh, this goes like this and you need to do it like this. In Konakol is more like musical, like the sound of the drum. So what is your experience learning African drum?
Well, I can tell you a few things that really stood out for me. So one experience that I had was I was sitting in the courtyard in our bungalow in 𝘮𝑗, and it was before our first drum lesson, and I was practicing with a metronome. I was practicing guitar with a metronome before moving to, and the drum master came a little early, and he heard me practicing with the metronome, and he came up and set his drum beside the metronome and began playing with the metronome. And his sense of time, like within, I don't know, 4 bars, I had completely lost what the time was. It was like his sense of time was so organic. It was totally musical. It was amazing. My jaw was on the floor, but my sense of how time was flowing, and how the count was, it just went out the door. It was so eye-opening. I was just and yet, he was right on with the metronome all the time. But, the way he was subdividing time just was so organic and beautiful and very complex. Another example, we were in a djembe circle. I was primarily studying sabar, but we were also studying a little bit of djembe. We were in a djembe circle, and we were to take solos, and it came time for the teacher's solo, the drum master's solo, and I was watching his hands. I mean, I was sitting right next to him, so I could see his hands, right? And I was hearing these blistering runs, but I was watching his hands, and they were just like, and I'm like, wait. How is this happening? How is he doing this? What is going on? And then I realized, like, he knows what everybody else is playing, and he can put a beat like 132nd in front of when you're going to play your next beat, right? And he can put a note 164th after the next guy has played their beat. So he can create these amazing runs because he's not playing his drum, he's playing the whole drum circle. And that was like, whoa. Really eye-opening. Okay, this is what it is to be a master musician. So that was another thing. And then I think also there was this moment when I worked with this Senegalese griot, 𝘮𝘭𝘪𝘮 Diop, and he would just introduce these rhythms as if they were conversations. He didn't count them out, right? For him, he was he would introduce them as, okay, this drum is talking to this drum, right? And this is how they talk to each other. And you know, and like coming from a Western tradition, like at one point I said, 𝘮𝘮𝘭𝘵, where is the one? Where is the one? You know, and he looked at me, he said, there is no one, man. And it really helped me understand that, you know, the African, at least the culture that I was exposed to, I mean, I don't want to make blanket general statements, but the culture I was exposed to, the drumming is a conversation. And if you think about the way we're talking, right, it's not like there's a one. We're just sharing, right?
Yeah, it will be difficult to realize which one is the one.
Yeah, that's right. We are the one.
We are That's really cool story. I've been realizing a lot of that when I see some drummers, from African drummers or even Senegalese drummers or people who plays drum, that has this sense of time like really different. And it's on time, like you say. I've been realizing a lot of that. It's like when you see this guy playing and he studied like really, I don't know, maybe too much Occidental styles like jazz, you know, like everything must be perfect. Even rock, it's like really shape music, you know, like. But when you saw these guys, it's like everything is on time, but it has a lot of groove. It has a lot of, I don't know, musicality, a lot of a different sensation. Like you say, you lose the one, and sometimes they play even in 4/4, and you say like,
where's the one?
Yes, where's this one?
That's exactly right. There is one other moment that was really eye-opening for me, because music is a communal event, at least in the cultures that I studied in West Africa, and with the sabar. The traditional sabar is dance is as much a part of the event as the drumming is, and so you get this circle. The community will encircle the drum orchestra, and usually what you'll have is you'll have the orchestra in the back, and then a lead drummer in the front, and someone will step into the circle, and begin dancing. Now what happens is the lead drummer is following the dancer. Okay, so everything that the dancer does, the lead drummer has a phrase that matches what they do. And but the thing is that the drum orchestra is following the lead drummer, right? So they're all creating a rhythm that is you know, supporting and following the lead drummer, right? And then the dancer is following the orchestra. So everybody's following everybody else.
That could be really messy sometimes.
But it's beautiful. It is so precise. It's so gorgeous, right? Like, you know, I have rarely seen music as precise as sabar. It's very precise and yet very organic. And the other thing about these kinds of dance events, like in the same, in one circle, I saw like a 6-year-old, you know, come into the circle, and the meaning of her moves was one thing, and then her mother was a beautiful, gorgeous woman, stepped into the circle, and she did the same moves, but they had a completely different meaning. Right. And then her mother, so the grandmother, stepped into the circle, and she did the same moves, but those moves had yet another meaning. And so there was this generational, this accommodation that the language of the dance and the drums meant different things. And yet it was somehow able to accommodate all of that. I don't know. I found it really beautiful and wonderful.
That's a really good example to explain the intention, I think. Like even when you can do the same thing, the intention and the experience, it's always what gives shape to that thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the grandmother, her moves are very humorous, right? They were full of a kind of and there was a similar kind of humor, but the 6-year-old, it had a kind of innocence to it, right? The grandmothers, they were very humorous, but they were very knowing, right? And whereas the mother, the moves, they were knowing, but they were also sensuous and suggestive, right? And so it was fascinating, the different layers and meanings that you could see from the same dancing.
Yes, it's interesting what you say. I think that must be like really crazy. It's like,
yes, totally. So and you were asking me what's new. Another thing that's new is I actually have moved. I've transported my my Kelstone technique. It took me about a year, but I've moved it over to the 8-string Strandbergs, and I'm a total convert. I am so into the Strandbergs. They're amazing. I love these guitars. They're so light, and you know the fact that they don't have a headstock, that extra 4 to 6 inches, that means, like, the most important thing when I get on a plane, people look at the case and they don't give me that raised eyebrow that's never going to fit in the overhead. They don't even bat an eye. They know they can't argue with me. They know it's going to fit in the overhead. So this is the most important thing.
the most big problem that musicians have when they flight.
That's right. Exactly. So yeah, I love the Strandbergs, and I'm very happy to have moved. In fact, I just got a 6-string Strandberg for traveling as well. So yeah, that way, because the 8 strings, there's no whammy, too much tension, I guess. So the 6-string has the whammy, and I can do all my 6-string repertoire. Yeah. What about you? What are you playing these days?
Well, lately only guitar. I was taking some singing lessons.
Oh.
And it was really interesting to learn about singing. And it's funny. When I took a lesson, I remember I was trying to sing a song. And suddenly my teacher said to me, like, okay, sounds good. Okay, it's good. You already know the lyrics. You already know how to sing. But I doesn't feel it. So I think we should do this exercise. She told me, like, what does this means to you? And that changed everything on my head. It was like, I've been thinking a lot on music when I took my guitar, and it's like playing. Oh yes. Even when I was a young fellow, I like to do these faces, like, you know, the strange faces and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And yes, I feeling this song. Yes, even when it doesn't mean to me anything, I am feeling it. So it changed completely my view. It was like, it's true. I have never sit down with myself and say, like, what does this mean to me? What does it truly means to me? And I found something, and I could attach into that feeling, and I begin to sing. And she told me, like, yes, that's the big difference. So I began to practice with my students of guitar, and I told them the same thing. And it's like magic. It converts everything. It changed everything. I don't know. It's like it comes alive. It has this meaning. It has this everything, you know. It's less like, oh, look at me, I am playing. It's more like it's something with a lot of meaning. It doesn't matter if it's a lot of technique or less technique. It has a big meaning, and that's what mostly counts in the songs, what we are talking about lately.
Yeah.
And
I think, you know, when you ask me, like, do I consider myself a musician? I think there is a transition point when there's an event when someone can either ask you, what does this mean to you? Or,
Mhm.
right? Or like before, your practice doesn't have space for that. Or maybe you're completely gifted, right? You're Mozart and or Prince, you know, and you came into this world already like that. But I think for many of us, there's a transition point where our practice suddenly opens up to include the space for that question.
Yeah, and it's crazy because also on guitarcraft for me changed a lot of views of points of views. Like for example, Robert always liked to tell that um, the musician doesn't make the music; it's always the music who makes the musician. And for me, always for me before guitarcraft, it was like the music. I made the music. It comes from me. I made it. And I didn't realize how egocentric and selfish, more selfish, it is. Like, yes, I do everything, and it's not like that. It's like I am only serving the music. It's my work. It's what I do, and it works differently. My blockings, especially my body blockings, begin to stop, and it was really amazing for me. It changed all my points of view. So I've been learning from a lot of people, talented people. It's like hearing Jacob Collier saying that about music theory. Someone asked him like, "What do you think about studying music theory?" And he said like, "Don't do that." Something like that. He said like, I don't practice. He said something like that. I don't practice, and for me it was like, what? What is going on? All my life I've been practicing. What is going on?
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's been strange. It's been a lot of changings, a lot of realizing on how the music works. It's we like to think that we know how it works, but we doesn't know. Like you say, it's like a mysterious thing. It happens. It comes to you. You are the prey, and it comes to
you. Yes, indeed.
you. And it could happen, and it's amazing. Sometimes it's crazy. So that on people who are really talented, and so that in people that doesn't practice a lot and can do amazing stuff. There are many examples, but I don't know. It's really complex. I could talk all day about that and geek about that, but
well, the funny thing is, I really there's an aspect of my practice that I really I cherish. It's a part of my day that how do I say, even if I'm tired or I'm feeling some kind of resistance to putting my ass on the practice stool, whenever I've completed my practice, I am a different person, and the world is a different world. And so there's something about just the practice itself that is rejuvenating and refreshing, and yeah. So I don't mind practicing. I actually really love it.
No, me neither. And
go ahead.
It's great. It's great, and me neither. But it's amazing when someone comes to you and say like, I don't practice, and it's when you hear and listen to him, it's like crazy music that he don't do, and you say like, what?
Sure. I yeah. Different people are at different places.
Yes, it's true. It's like I was talking with Steve about keep going, the meaning of keep going, and many people say like, oh, you need to keep going. And for me, keep going has changed into a different world. Instead of keep going, moving, for me, it has changed to keep going when you are having trouble and you are finding something that is blocking you, keep going. If it doesn't work, stop, and then stop to realize what is going on, because you are not realizing what is going on. So stop to see that, and then move to another place to keep going. So it's in another way to keep going. So
Yes.
I've been realizing that that could means a lot of things in different ways. So
Yeah,
I think it's the same.
I totally hear you. I totally hear you. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and you've got yourself a new way of going, which is this podcast.
Yes, yes. I've been learning a lot of stuff lately. It's like I was talking with someone, and she asked me what you are doing, and I begin to tell her, like, I do this, and I like to do all this stuff. I like to play guitar. I do music. But in these days, it's not enough to be a musician. Only like I could play guitar and that's all. Yes, I am a happy boy and I could play guitar and tour around the world, and yes, that's all. In these days, you need to learn how to be an engineer a little bit. You need to learn some stuff about engineer, some stuff about sound, some stuff about composition, some stuff about styles, different styles, even management also.
Yep.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like you need to learn a lot of stuff lately.
Oh, I agree 100%. But I enjoy all that learning. You
Yes.
know, the learning that when, like, in the first LP we produced, I learned a lot, and by the second I learned even more. like here's an example of something I never thought I would have to think about when it came to music. I so the press that I normally use, because of COVID, they were backed up. They had an 18-month backlog. And so that meant there was no way I was going to release the album around Christmas time, or near Christmas time. And so I expanded my worldview, and I said, well, the press doesn't have to be the one I've used. I could find a press anywhere in the world. And so I found Canadian vinyl pressing up in Canada, and they were happy to take my order. And I got a better price from them than I did from my usual place. They did a fantastic job, as you could see at the beginning. But then when it came time for them to ship the LPs to me, I needed to have a customs broker because it was coming across the border.
Yes.
And if you don't, like, I didn't know this, but if you don't have a customs broker, it can sit in customs for months at a time.
Oh.
Right. So, but if you have a customs broker, it just rubber stamped and it'll go straight through. No problem. So that was something I never expected to have to know anything about, was
yes,
shipping and logistics and customs brokers and all of that stuff. It's just crazy. So there's kind of a whole package to this.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists, like, if you think about the artists in the 60s and 70s, when what would happen is a record label would come in and they would handle all those details for the artist. And if I'm self-producing, I have to cover all that myself. But doing that, I get to have all the artistic decisions, right? The crown, and I make sure that everybody's engaged, right? It's like, what do you think about this drawing? What do you think about this mix? The whole band, the whole ensemble, everybody gets a say into how it goes. But record label, the marketing department, the sales department, none of them are making those decisions. We're making those decisions, and hopefully, it reaches the ears that need to hear it. And but because of that, we take more ownership and more responsibility. And I think the the final product shows that.
Yes, yes. So it's like you say, I've been learning also a lot of stuff, and so it's necessary sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And this also has been helping me. For example, in a similar example that you gave, for me it's like, well, I need to learn how to record myself, what light is better, and how I can do this, how I can do that. It's been really interesting.
I agree. I totally, absolutely. Even just making simple little videos, right? So, you know, I'll spend a good half an hour going, okay, well, if I have a, you know, like a lamp here, but also some candles, right?
Yes.
I'll get this mix between what seems like natural light and what's, you know. Yeah, I never thought I would be thinking about these kinds of things.
And for me, I am going to tell you a funny story. When we were recording a video with Steve and the guys, we were recording Scaling the Whales. For me, it was a journey, literally
Sure.
a journey. I live in a really dark house, and it's because it's building. I have a building in front of me, so it blocks all the sun. It's really difficult, and there is not so much light. And I didn't have this thing to help me. So
Sure.
for me, it was a journey. It was a journey. I spent, I think it was like also like you say, 1 hour or 1.5 hour, something like that, putting books over books to put the camera, and more books and boxes to put the lights.
Yes.
It was a crazy experience, crazy, because the most funny part was that something I put it like, say, like, this is perfect. Oh my God, I leave it on the perfect way, and suddenly the books like fell down.
Yeah.
I was like, no,
Yeah.
not again.
I totally understand. But, you know, but again, you know, in thinking about like the transformation of one's practice, right? So in that way, your practice is widened, and there's a transformation, right? You went from the dark to the light, right? So you went from Locrian to Lydian in one video shoot.
And it only take me 4 hours.
That's right. There you go.
Oh no, it was a crazy experience.
Understood. Understood.
Crazy experience. And also, you already know this, but also like, no, this tuk is not good enough again. Oh.
Yeah, I totally get that one. Yeah.
Oh my God, I screwed it on the bar 34. Oh, let's do it again.
Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because another thing new that's coming up for the Crown is, since we've got a little bit of momentum going, we're gonna try out a new studio, MTC Studio. I did some work with them when they were on Finney Ridge here in Seattle, and since then Michael Connolly has moved his studio up to just outside of Bellingham, so it's north of Seattle, and so he's got a beautiful studio, you know, on a farm near Bellingham. And so I thought, we love Bear Creek. Bear Creek is an amazing, magical place, and we're very happy with the recording that we did there. But I thought it would just be fun to go try out Michael's new studio, and so we're going to go up and just check it out. So we're not the goal is not to try to get a bunch of tracks that we're going to release. The goal is really to just get a feel for that studio, and do we want to integrate the use of that studio as a part of our process? And since that's our goal, I just sent out a text just before this call to the team, and I said, what if we, instead of trying to do a deep dive on one track, what if we just played the whole set continuously, right? Just play all the material as if it were a live performance. Because, you know, when you're on stage, you don't go, wait, I got to do another take. Sorry. Right. It's like, that mistake just went by. Right. And it's really how you dealt with that situation that is what the audience is paying for is to because everybody's going to have to deal with situations like that, whether you're Glenn Gould or
Yes.
or Bob Dylan. Everybody has to deal with those situations, and what the audience wants to see is the musician that is able to make music out of those moments. And so that's kind of my thinking, and I haven't heard back from the band. I just sent them a text just before this call, but maybe they'll say, Greg, you're crazy. But it seems like it's at least a process where we could use the time that we booked in MTC to try it that way, as opposed to another take.
Yes, the painful repetition.
Well, it doesn't have to be painful, but there's something just something about using the time differently to give it a quality of life.
Yeah. And you make me remember what I told my students. It's funny because once I told them, you need to play all the section, and if you made a mistake, don't worry, keep going.
Yeah,
you need
keep going.
You need to yes, you need to learn to how to keep going, because
Yes.
mostly of the time you stop and you say, oh no, I made a mistake. Now try different approach. Now let's keep going. Even if you made the worst mistake, if you can keep going, keep going.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's really funny because they start to play, they made this horrible mistake and say, stop. No, I made a mistake. And I say like,
keep going.
keep going. You are not going to be on a stage and say like, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Let's stop the full concert.
Exactly. I had a moment like that. The first song we played Racer Cafe this past Sunday, and this is our first gig, right? Our first gig out, and for most of us, I think it was our first gig out in like 2 years, right? So and it was also an interesting moment. I felt particularly vulnerable because we played after the magical and amazing 𝘮𝘮𝘮𝘮, who did this killer solo vocal set that was just so inspiring. And then Julie Slick, who's the bass player for Adrian Belew Power Trio, amongst other things. She also has her own band, Echo Test, but she did this solo set that was just out of this world. It was galactic, right? And so I was feeling particularly vulnerable getting on stage after these two people. and very first song, and I've got a looping that is in the third movement of the song. And we're playing, it's not going terribly, and then I hit the loop to continue and the loop doesn't go on. And I'm like, I'm not going to stop the song and say, wait, we got to redo the whole loop thing. So Beth picked up the part on the piano, and while Amy was doing her solo, I continued to comp, right? And then when it came time for me to solo, just everybody picked up what the loop would normally be doing, and nobody in the audience knew that there was supposed to be a loop playing. So it was how to make music out of those moments, I think.
Yes, and how to solve them. It's the most interesting part for us.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah. And doing it in real time, because you have to do it in real time. There's no do-over there.
Yes, no.
Now is the time. This present moment. You got to solve this right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something really interesting to pass that. I think we all musicians or people who has been on a stage suffer that at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I guess at some point though, it becomes almost like a friend instead of a suffering, right? It's like you're the friend is here.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like on a stage like this fear? Oh well, you have feel it. Now that you told me the story of Julie Slick and this amazing performance, and then you have to perform, and I think that you're mine. You think kind of similar as I do, like, oh no, this was great. I need to do it great.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was definitely feeling very vulnerable. I was feeling like really naked and like, okay, well, this is our take on music, right? And but but by the end of it, I have to say that I felt good about the music we played, and the audience felt good about the music we played. And Julie actually said, "Hey, I really like that song." So,
But how have you ever found a way to deal with this nervousness before the performance?
so that's a good question. So one thing that that became really clear to me in Guitarcraft was when I'm in the kitchen, I am so comfortable in the kitchen. Like when you're cooking for 100 people, things are going to go wrong. There's going to be some ingredient that's missing. There's going to be, it's like things are just going to go wrong. But in the kitchen, I don't care. Somehow, no matter what, I am so comfortable in the kitchen that like nothing phases me. I can improvise in the moment and make sure that some kind of meal is out there on time and people are happy, right? And so there was this moment when I saw that about myself, and I said, I should be able to think about being on stage like I am in the kitchen. And that was a big help for me, was that. Another thing is, I'm a mathematician, and I have had to do many presentations to technical audiences. I've had to do presentations in the boardrooms of Fortune 100 companies. And so obviously when I make presentations like that, there's a little bit of energy, a little bit of not I wouldn't call it nerves, but there's like a kind of excitement, right? And again, it's this kind of feeling like, I know this stuff really well, and I actually really like it when people ask questions, and they say, well, what about, or have you thought about, or all that kind of stuff. And I like that situation. And so remembering that I like that engagement, I like being that performance. And so being able to bring that to the stage was another thing. And then I have to say that the really profound shift for me has been just being present in my body. So like really feeling my hands, when being present in my hands when I play, being present, it's like, okay, my ass is on a stool, being present in my ass, being present in the soles of my feet.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that when I do that, the audience hears differently. I've tested it, right? If I don't play that way, and when I do play that way, the feedback is very, very consistent. Being present in my body changes the way the audience hears me. So that's another, and that I had debilitating stage fright, but when I made being present in my body a part of my practice, that changed everything.
That's interesting. And what does these people like found when you are like present in your body that is not on the other examples?
So one of the things that they say is consistently is, I've never heard that tune played like that. Like what did you do differently? That's another question. So
a different sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Really cool.
But I think it goes back to that question that your voice teacher asks you, what does this mean for you?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's possible to engage the body and then engage the feelings and then engage the mind, but not the busy worrying mind, but the musical mind. Mm-hmm. And I think when our ability to occupy or be occupied by music in those spaces changes the experience for us. And I think it's kind of our responsibility as musicians to aspire to that kind of engagement, because that's what our audience really wants from us. Mm-hmm. is to join us in that occupation of the body and the mind and the heart in such a way that they become places where music wants to inhabit.
A really cool answer. Thanks for watching and getting so far. Also a big thanks to my dear friend Greg for his wisdom, knowledge, his brilliant mind, his music, and everything that he gives to us. If you want to support him, I am going to leave a link on the description where you can find his music and ways to support him. Also, personally, I want to thank Greg for his friendship and unstoppable support to this channel and to me. If you want to support me or this channel, I am going to leave a link on the description where you can make donations, or even you can subscribe, hit the like button, or share this video. On my next video, I will have the amazing Cathy Moore, who is a talented guitar player and musician. So stay tuned and see you soon.